Hello, everybody, and welcome to a bonus episode of the World of Eora. I'm your host, Eric, aka Gingereno, and thank you guys so much for joining me today as we dive into some of the secondary and supplementary lore for the World of Eora as seen in Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2 and Avowed. In my most recent episode, I talked at length about the Vailian republics and their history, where they come from, a little bit about their culture and their government, their value system, etc., etc. And today, I want to actually sit down and discuss the Vailian language. Like many fantasy games and fantasy stories and movies, etc., there are made-up languages that exist. You can see this in all sorts of fiction. I mean, there's an entire language in the Star Trek universe that people can actually speak and get certified in. So making up fantasy languages is nothing new, and it's something that's practiced in a lot of areas. I think even the Dwarven or Elvish language in the Lord of the Rings series is also something that you can get certified in. I don't actually know if that's true, but a lot of people speak this made-up fantasy language. And so we see a lot of things like that in fantasy games, and it's the same with Pillars of Eternity and Avowed. The Vailian people have their own language, and it originates from the old Vailian languages, and it is carried over into Vailian republics, but most people speak Aediran. Aediran is kind of like the version of Common, like you get from Dungeons & Dragons. The real-world influences for the Vailian language is Italian, Occitan, Catalan, and French. I don't know if I pronounced one of those right, but those are kind of the influences that you get when you try to speak Vailian. And you can kind of tell when you are talking to a Vailian person within the game, especially Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire, where you interact with a lot of people from the Vailian Trading Company. You can get a lot of that, especially Italian and French accent bleeding through. You can really hear that. And those are the influences for this fantasy language that exists. I'm not a linguist by any means, and so I don't know how to break down language in an actual way. So if anyone out there is an expert in the field of language and you've played the Pillars of Eternity games, send me an email on any observations you have about this kind of thing, because I don't have any myself and I wasn't able to find any on the internet. However, by going to pillarsofeternity.fandom.com, we have a list of words that are available in the Vailian language, and I can kind of show them to you here and tell you what they mean. So you can learn to speak a little bit of Vailian out there in the real world. Nobody's going to know what you're talking about, except for maybe that one special someone. Who knows, right? So here are some examples of Vailian words.
Gelade, well done. A formidable fortress in the old style. We don't build them like this anymore, you know. Not by the sea. Too vulnerable to cannons.
If you want to say yes to somebody, you can simply say ak, AC. That means yes. If you would like to greet somebody, you can say ado, ADO. That is a Vailian greeting. If you would like to call somebody a friend, there is a feminine and masculine way to do so. Aimika is feminine, aimiko is masculine. Also, aimo, A-I-M-O, means love. And if you wanted to call someone your beloved, in the feminine, it's aimora, and in the masculine, it's aimoro. If you wanted to call your little one a beloved, it's aimorenet. There are some terms in the Vailian language that are always not in the best taste, at least by maybe some of our standards today, depending on who you are. For example, there's aptepolere, which means goat people, which refers to the mountain dwarves race that exists within this world. If you wanted to call someone a dick, you would call them a batso or batsos, which is a term for penis, but in this sense, it's in the pejorative sense. Belfetto is an expression or exclamation meaning well done or great. So if someone does something great, which, you the player character does quite a lot, you will hear the word belfetto. If you want to command silence, you'll say caloste. For some reason, if you want to say the word squid, you'll say calmo. Complanca is an appeal for mercy. So if you're trying to get mercy from somebody, you'll say complanca. I also hear in the game a lot per complanca, which basically literally means for mercy or for a little mercy. It is basically taken as come on now. Diverus is an expression of questioning or confirmation. It roughly translates to really or seriously. Ikosi is an expression meaning excuse me. Espir is a word for soul. Fentre is a term for an unmarried man or sir. Frero is a word for brother. Plural is frema. And this is where we start getting to the explicit side of things. If you wanted to curse, you could say futito, which means fuck. Gelarde, which you would have heard Pelagina say earlier on in today's episode, is an expression of approval that roughly translates to brave or defiant. So if someone does something brave or defiant and you want to approve of that, you would say Gelarde. Madico is an expletive curse. It means spoken evil, but it's like the way we use the word damn. Merla, an expletive or a curse, are equivalent to the word shit. If you have a particularly nosy person in your life, you might call them nazinel or a nazinelette. If you want to say the word perfect, you can say parfito. Another idiom in an insulting way is postinaga or postanago. That's the feminine and masculine respectively for the word idiot. Interestingly enough, this is literally the word for carrot, but they use it to mean idiot. To take one of the curse words from earlier, futito, which is the big old F word there, if you say se futito, that means fuck this. If you want to apologize, such as I'm sorry that I'm saying so many curse words on the podcast, you might use the word sienter, which means I'm sorry. Suol is a word for sun. It's also the name of the golden coins that they use for currency. And if you remember back to my Principi Sen Patrena episode, you might remember the ship captains in that pirate confederacy. They take suolanets from their ship crew to use as voting power in the council. That's probably where this word comes from. Tonderi is a phrase meaning nonsense, often used in a reference to a silly or foolish idea. And then you have the word vulpenet, which means little fox. This is often used affectionately to call someone nosy or sneaky. Now, there are a lot more words than just this. I'm just kind of picking out the interesting ones, especially the curse words. If you want to read more examples of Vailian language that you can use in your, in your own day-to-day life, you can go to pillarsofeternity.fandom.com and you can look up the article for Vailian language. That's Vailian language. On top of these words, there's also some phrases that you can speak. For example, Perla Vailian fentre means, do you speak Vailian, sir? Perichu natur now basenderi melanet means, I hope your ship sinks, little shit. We can see the melanet there being little shit. Fiaces vol convenero means flames take you. This is a battle cry that you can actually hear by Pelagina, who is one of the companions that you get in the first and second Pillars of Eternity game. Voxeno vulpenet merla. I recognize Vulpenet and Merla from the words that I said to you. That's little fox and shit. So you little fox shit is what that roughly translates to. And now here we have a really long phrase. I am going to butcher this very much so, but we're going to give it the best shot that we possibly can, so bear with me. Loguri di prodigema paladina me darkosi aior lesto regili mea aurelia darkosi era guishu Loretta bonamo e baffetta e porishetu mai dicanasfia se converandi. Which roughly translates to, I swear to guard the Darkosi Palace and its rightful rulers, the scions of Aurelia Darkosi. I swear to them my love and my life, or may Magrin's fires consume me. So I imagine that's what the Darkosi Knights paladin order. That's probably the oath that they swear when they become a paladin. So I guess I'm a Darkosi Knight now because I kind of did that. So there we have some examples of Vailian language. I hope that you took some of those with you, especially the curse words, because those are always fun. I definitely had fun reading into these as well. I might involve a few of them in there. Calling someone a vulpenet if I want to call them a little fox for some reason, or calling them a carrot to mean idiot. That's a good one. I like that one. But yeah, so there are some examples of Vailian terms. Hopefully this episode was good and that you didn't like it. And if you didn't like it, it wasn't degraza, which is disgraced in Vailian. Hopefully you enjoyed this show. Thanks everyone for listening. I'm glad I was able to get a bonus episode out this week. The last time I tried to do a bonus episode, I didn't have a voice, so I wasn't able to do it. But anyways, that's all for today. Thanks everyone for listening to this short little episode. I'll catch you guys next week with a full-length one. Until now, this has been Eric, aka Gingereno. I'm your host. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time.